What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to GamerFuzion. Star Wars Zero Company launches on the 27th, and the first real decision it hands you is your specialization. So today we are going through all 11 classes we know about, and we are ranking them by one specific question. Which one should you actually pick first? That is not the same question as which one hits hardest on a spreadsheet. I am weighting how easy a class is to use and how well it covers you against the wound system. I am also weighting whether you can genuinely choose it at all, because a couple of these are locked to specific characters. One caveat before we start: nobody has finished this campaign yet, and the review embargo has not lifted, so everything here is built on official class descriptions and on the guides and previews published ahead of launch. Let us get into it. Number one is the one everybody wants, and it is also the one you cannot choose. The Jedi Padawan is an exotic specialization locked to a single character. That character is Telria Vokas. She fights with dual lightsabers and force abilities, and the kit is genuinely spectacular. Her ultimate is called Shockwave, driving the force outward to damage and push back everyone nearby. Her standard ability is a straight force push. The passive is Padawan training, which lets her deflect blaster fire and raises her melee critical chance. There is also a talent called Strong with the Force. She starts every turn with harmony stacks that feed her deflection and her lightsaber attacks. So why is this sitting at the bottom of a best pick list? Because it is not a pick. You cannot roll a Jedi on a generated operator, and you cannot respec into it. Coverage ahead of launch also says the specialization is permanent for her. It says the class is lost entirely if she dies. In a game with a permadeath toggle, that is worth sitting with for a moment. Number two is the other locked exotic, and that is the Mandalorian Warrior. This one belongs to a character called Cly Culervo. The fantasy here is pure mobility. Mandalorian armor training grants base defense and a jetpack, which means free vertical movement around the battlefield. There is a talent called Combat Jump as well. It lets Cly leap to a nearby position and shove enemies out of place on landing. The standard ability is an ElectroWeb dart. It shocks the target, and it does not trigger Overwatch or retaliation, which is a very useful property in a game like this. The ultimate is ElectroWeb Surge, detonating electrical blasts around every darted enemy while ignoring defense entirely. There is one difference from the Jedi worth knowing. Coverage ahead of launch indicates Cly can be respected into the standard classes, so this one is not permanently welded on. It still is not something you choose for yourself, though. You get it because you recruited the character who happens to have it. That is why it sits down here rather than higher up the order. Number three is where the exotics get interesting, because the Astromech is not tied to one named character. Guides ahead of launch say it unlocks fairly early and that you can field more than one at a time. Its ultimate is coordinated support, granting every operator on your squad an action point. Reports say that upgrades to 2 points later on. Stop and think about what that means in a game built on 3 points a turn. Handing your entire squad an extra action is enormous. There is a talent called Built-in Comlink that gives a single ally a point for one of yours. The standard ability is Enhanced Scanners. It scans enemies across an area and negates their defense completely. Built-in thrusters let the droid move vertically without restriction. There is an extended storage passive on top of that, which lets the droid reuse a utility item rather than burning it. So why is it not higher? Because a droid is a squad slot rather than a specialization for your own commander. It also contributes very little damage by itself. This is a fantastic thing to own and a strange thing to build your identity around. Number four is the first of the 8 standard specializations, and that is the Soldier. Every operator you generate can take any of these 8, and that includes Hawks himself. The Soldier is the all-rounder of the set. It engages at close to medium range, and it carries the widest weapon spread of anything here. Melee and grenades and rocket launchers are all on the table. The ultimate is Rocket Strike, firing an explosive that damages everything caught in the blast. The standard ability is Brutal Strike, a melee rush that also dazes the target. Strength raises melee damage and grenade throw range. Armsmaster lifts your blaster and grenade damage on top of that. Preview coverage noted that a character called Trick starts the game as a soldier. Now here is the honest problem. Being good at everything means being the best at nothing. One pre-launch tier list actually rates the soldier highly for exactly that flexibility. I rate it lower as a first pick because a new player learns these systems faster with a class that does one thing loudly. Number 5 is the Gunslinger, and this is the dual pistol specialist. The whole design is spreading damage across several enemies rather than deleting one. The ultimate is open fire, letting you shoot twice at any combination of targets. Coverage says that upgrades to 3 shots further in. The standard ability is Quick Draw, a fast pistol shot that refunds an action point if it finishes the target off. That refund is the interesting part of this class. Chain a couple of kills together and a Gunslinger turn keeps extending itself. Keen Eye raises critical chance on your ranged attacks. Onslaught adds blaster damage with every attack you make using the primary weapon. So the class snowballs beautifully when things are going well. The catch is that it needs kills to pay you back. On a turn where nothing dies, you have spent your points and gained nothing for them. Survivability options are also thin compared to what sits above it here. This is a great class in a squad that already works. It is a rough one to learn the game on. Number 6 is the Assault, and this is the flanker of the roster. The official description calls it a frontline fighter built to score close and medium range kills against targets hiding in cover. That last part is the entire point of the class. Strike the Flanks grants 20% extra critical chance against exposed enemies. So you are being paid specifically for getting around the side of something. Fleet of Foot boosts your first movement to help you do it. The standard ability is Bull Rush, a charge that deals melee damage and knocks the target backwards. The ultimate is Sweeping Salvo, a wide cone of fire that damages and disorients everything caught inside it. Reports ahead of launch say it can also hand an ally an action point by spending Advantage. Everything about this reads well on paper. The reason it is not higher is the wound system. Flanking means leaving cover and standing in the open beside things that shoot back. In a campaign where 3 wounds means a dead operator, that is a habit with a bill attached to it. Number 7 is the Sharpshooter, and this is where the list starts getting genuinely safe. This is the long-range specialist that deletes one priority target before it becomes a problem. The ultimate is Precision Shot, described as a calculated blaster shot that always hits. In a game running on percentage chances, a guaranteed hit on the thing you most need dead is a real luxury. The standard ability is Zero In. You set up a firing position and gain lethal stacks that push your hit chance and your critical chance upward together. Sharpshooter training adds a flat 10% chance to hit on every blaster attack. Pick them off improves your Overwatch accuracy and your Overwatch damage. And that Overwatch angle matters more than it sounds. A class that rewards holding still and covering ground is a class that keeps your operator a long way from the enemy. Against a wound system that punishes exposure, distance is a form of defense. The trade here is patience. Move a Sharpshooter around too much and you will wonder why it feels so weak. One thing worth flagging about the rankings floating around out there, the tier list I keep referencing rated the Sharpshooter highly before its kit was even revealed, purely on how the archetype normally performs. That is the honest state of every pre-launch ranking, including this one. Number 8 is the Scout, and this one is very easy to underestimate. On paper, it is reconnaissance. In practice, it is your advantage engine. Advantage is the shared squad pool that powers your strongest abilities without spending action points. Combat Recon scans a target area and grants you advantage for every enemy it detects. So the Scout is the class that fills the tank everybody else drinks from. Tactical timing gives a chance at more advantage when you defeat an enemy. The Spotter marks any enemy you damage with your blaster. The ultimate is Ambush, a surprise attack that scales with how much advantage you pour into it. That is a lovely piece of design. The class that generates the resource also owns the best way to spend it. Guides moved the Scout up their rankings once these abilities were revealed. My one reservation is that it is an indirect class. Your contribution shows up in what your squad can afford to do rather than in your own damage numbers, and some people bounce off that on a first run. Number 9 is the Heavy, and this is the one that keeps everybody else alive. The official description calls it thickly armored and tough as nails, built to soak up attacks out in the open. Its ultimate is Bulwark, that taunts every enemy in an area and forces them to attack this operator while granting extra defense on top of it. Read that again with the permadeath rules in mind. A button that decides who gets shot is a button that decides who survives. The standard ability is Unstoppable, building retaliation stacks so incoming attacks get answered. Intimidating Posture makes your ordinary blaster attacks taunt on hit. Conditioning and heavy armor training raise health and defense respectively. Preview footage also showed a talent called Grit, granting stacking invulnerability where each stack absorbs one incoming attack. That is enormous in a game where damage turns into wounds and wounds turn into funerals. The only reason it is not in the top 2 is that it works before the fact rather than after. It stops damage landing on you. It cannot undo the damage that already did. Number 10 is the medic, and I want to make a specific argument for it. This is the only dedicated healer in the entire game. In most tactics games, that is a nice thing to have around. Here it is structural. Wounds carry between missions, and 3 of them without rest kills an operator permanently. So healing is not just topping up a bar during a firefight. It is the thing standing between your favorite character and a permanent deletion. First Responder is quietly one of the best passives on this list. Your medic carries a med pack permanently without spending a utility slot on it. Life-saving measures then makes every med pack heal for more. Combat Stim raises an ally's maximum health and their damage at the same time. The ultimate is Morale Boost, giving nearby allies morale stacks that restore health every turn. Some pre-launch tier lists put the medic mid-table because the raw damage simply is not there. I think that misreads what this particular game punishes you for. Previews are fairly direct about this as well. They describe the medic getting more important the higher you push the difficulty, because that is where injuries start stacking toward the permadeath threshold. If you are running Beskar mode, this is not optional. And that brings us to number 11, which is the Scoundrel. Before the argument, one distinction. The most important class to have on your squad is the medic. The best class to pick for yourself is this one. Identify weakness costs a single action point and makes the target vulnerable, so the next attack on it critically hits. 1 point for a guaranteed critical. That is the kind of ability an entire encounter bends around. The ultimate is Easy Mark, marking an enemy so the Scoundrel assists the next ally who attacks it. Never play fair, then increases that assist damage. Scoundrel's Instinct makes all of your attacks penetrate, ignoring up to 4 points of defense. So this class does not simply deal damage, it multiplies what everybody else on the squad is already doing. The pre-launch tier list I mentioned earlier puts it alone in its top tier, and I think that is right. The reason it is my pick for a first campaign is the skill floor. You do not need to read a guide to use it well. Point at the dangerous thing, then let your squad delete it. So that is the running order as it stands 3 days out from launch. Before we go, there is one more thing worth knowing. There is a 12th class in this game, and nobody outside BitReactor knows what it is. PC Gamer Report. The studio will either announce it later or leave it in there as a surprise to find. So treat this as a starting point rather than a finished answer. And remember that you can respec your generated operators whenever you like. There is even a secondary specialization that opens up midway through the campaign. So nothing you pick on day one is going to trap you. Now I want to hear from you. What are you rolling first? And does the Scoundrel deserve that top spot? Let me know down in the comments. We are covering this one right through launch. So subscribe and hit that notification bell. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next one.